Welcome to Tech Talk with Craig Peterson, show number 643. We've got a lot of guests coming up today. We're going to be talking about some of the different things that we saw out at the Consumer Electronics Show, out, of course, in Las Vegas, Las Wages, Nevada, as so many people call it. We're going to be talking a little bit about some of the things in the news this week as well. As we go forward, there's some very neat stuff, of course, Facebook's IPO. We're going to be talking about $5.5 billion or $5 billion. Amazing. SpaceX. This is kind of the future of space, moving it away from NASA. Talking about what they've done with a big breakthrough on rockets. Also, this is really kind of neat here. Apple and the Apple Store. We're going to talk about a little project here. A project that ends up involving some unintended consequences. In fact, that's the name of it, Unintended Consequences. It's a bit of an art show. And if we have time, we're going to get to the Batmobile, Microsoft slamming Google on their user data policy. There's a lot to talk about today. Yet another busy day here. We should be having some fun as we continue on. And our guests today, we're going to be talking with Belkin. A little bit about some of the stuff they're doing. Larry O'Connor's going to join us from Mac Sales. I love these guys. Larry's a great guy. They have some very good products as well that are aimed at your Mac, primarily your laptops, but they have stuff for PCs as well. Your desktops, your iPods, iPads. They have things to upgrade them, make them faster. We've had Larry on the show before. Very, very good guy. Optoma USA, we're going to hear the interview I did this year with them. A few weeks ago, we re-aired last year's interview as a bit of a fill. But we're going to be talking about how they have the newer projectors. And Optoma is a company that I use. I have one of their very small projectors. We've been using it for US First. And if you're someone who goes out on the road, you can just plug these in. Some of these will plug right into your iPhone. They'll plug into your iPad. You can load presentations onto them, and then they just project right on the wall. It's amazing what they do. We're going to be joined by Dennis Peng from UMA. We're talking with him about how you can get telephone service for super cheap money. Very, very cheap. In fact, you buy their device and you never have a phone bill ever again. Of course, unless you want one. INRIX is going to join us. If you've ever used some of the navigation systems that monitor traffic and do some projections, well, that's what INRIX does. We'll be talking with them. Cramworld is going to be with us. Darren Klum. Don Mayer is going to be with us. Now, this is a very new thing for us here on the show. We haven't done quite this before, and I want everyone to be aware of it. But we have a new segment that we're going to be doing every week here. It's called the Ask an Apple Expert segment. It is all new here on Tech Talk with Craig Peterson, and it's brought to you by Small Dog Electronics. And we're going to talk with them about what they're doing here to help people with their Macs. In fact, Small Dog Electronics is Manchester's #1 source for Apple products, and they also do repairs. They're right there in the Mall of New Hampshire. You can find them online at smalldog.com. But we're going to be taking questions from you. All you have to do is go to either WGIRAM.com or 967thewave.com. Keyword is small dog, and fill out the form there. Enter in some questions that you have. And if you give us your phone number or a way to contact you, we can see if we can't get you on the show as well, so you can kind of ask your question live. So we're going to be joined by Small Dog Electronics top dog, Don. He's going to be joining us today, too. We'll talk a little bit about what Small Dog does, what is coming up here on future segments of the show. And he's going to be on every week here. So it is the bottom of the second hour. So about 5:30, you'll hear Don Mayer coming on every week here. Neat.com is going to be with us. Of course, if you have taxes, if you have paper like I have in my hands here, you can do away with all of that, frankly, all the paperwork, whether it's tax paperwork, the business cards from a show that you went to, no matter what it might be. That's what they do, and they do it well at neat.com. He's going to be joining us talking about their new little miniature scanner that they have and others. Sarah Tomlinson's going to be with us from iDevices. If you enjoy grilling, and they have a few others now too, the iGrill, they have one for the shower. But if you enjoy your iDevices, that's the guy, iDevicesinc.com. Talking with them a little bit today. Christina is going to be with us. Christina San, she's been on the show before over at Parrot, P-A-R-R-O-T. They make this cool air drone, the AR drone. You've probably seen it at the mall. The flying around is the quadricopter. Now they've got new versions of that out. They have some other stuff too. Robin Raskin's going to be with us today, Living in Digital Times. Yeah, what a crazy busy show today, isn't it? Pioneer Electronics is going to join us talking about their app radio. Yes, indeed, our cars are moving towards apps. Harry Kroll is going to be our guest there. John ABT here, or ABT, from ABT.com, which is ABT Electronics, going to be talking a little bit about what they're doing. And they have all kinds of stuff that you can buy on their online store. Again, this is another family store. We got a couple of different family businesses on today, and they will provide you with all kinds of parts and devices and stuff at abt.com. Karen Globus is going to be with us. She's with Jazzwares. Now, I wasn't aware of this. They make Fruit Ninja, as well as some of these other apps, and Fruit Ninja is something that my granddaughter, I'm not old, my granddaughter loves to play this little Fruit Ninja app game. So I'm going to be talking with them about apps, the app business, and what they're doing over at Jazzwares. And then our last guest today is from Switch Lighting. And we're going to talk with Tracy a little bit about what they're doing. And of course, we talked about lighting here before and some of the pros and cons to the newest types of lighting. You're listening to Tech Talk with Craig Peterson. We're going to go through some articles in the news. We just went through our guests today. Yeah, there are a lot of guests. We must have, 15 different guests talking about different technologies today. Well, of course, the big news this week in the tech world is probably Facebook. What's happening with the $5 billion IPO? Is this the next Google? Or maybe it's the next Groupon? Or I saw another author that was saying maybe this is really the next Yahoo. There is a huge need to get everyone connected. People love to be connected. They love to relate to people. And they, at Facebook, have already helped more than 800 million people map out their friends, right? It's old Kevin Bacon. I think we actually decided that everyone's within 4-point-something degrees of everybody else. But 100 billion connections over there at Facebook. Now, I'm going through this letter here and an article from Wired.com from Mark Zuckerberg. And he's talking about using Facebook to change how people relate to their governments as well and social institutions. They got all kinds of different types of tools that they're developing. They're trying to help really people connect. But here's the bottom line. Why is Facebook potentially worth $5 billion? Well, it's right now the best way to market products, really bar none. They know everything about people, right? They know who your friends are. They know what you talk about. They know what your friends talk about. They know who your family is. They know who your family talks about, right? They know all of this stuff. They know you were searching for a new car, for instance. So they can show you the ads that are going to relate best to you. Now, those are the kind of ads you want to see, right? You don't want ads for cars when you're not even interested in a car. But that is valuable information, and that's where it comes into play here with Facebook. Because it is such valuable information, the company is worth a lot going forward. So we'll see what ends up happening with the value of Facebook. Obviously, they're not going out of business the very next day. But when you look at what happened with Groupon, it was pretty bad, really, here. The people were excited, and then money kind of went out of it. This is, again, from Facebook here. Facebook's a paradox throughout its history. It has been both open and closed. It began as a closed social network for Harvard students, but within that closed network, it sought to push the boundaries of each user's privacy. Got an article on that one too. So much of Facebook's culture, especially its boundary-challenging, generation-defining norms of sharing and privacy, stems from those early days as a place where Harvard students could meet, socialize, and share often embarrassing photos of each other. And the letter goes on to say how Mark Zuckerberg put it together, and really the whole idea behind Facebook is kind of a hacker's way to do things. You're listening to Tech Talk with Craig Peterson, going through a couple articles in the news this week. Now, I'm debating which one to go to next here. But when we're talking about Facebook and we're talking about privacy, I think this article is an important one. This is from USA Today. And this talks about what Microsoft is doing right now. Of course, we talked about Google's new privacy policy. They seem to have them all the time, but now they're really stressing it. It's important to read the privacy policy. Do you ever wonder why? It kind of goes back to methinks thou dost protest too much, right? Here's the article. This is actually from AP, the Associated Press. Microsoft slammed search rival Google with full-page ads Wednesday, saying that recent changes at Google that allow it to internally merge the data it collects on user activities across services such as YouTube and Gmail are meant to allow advertisers to better target customers. Adding parenthetically here myself, Back to the article from AP again. Google has touted the overhaul it announced last week as a simplification of detailed but obtuse policies and a better way to provide a better user experience. Microsoft offered up its own web-based alternatives, saying, for instance, that users of its free email service, Hotmail, don't have to worry about the content of their emails being used to help target ads. The attack ads appeared in papers including USA Today, Wall Street Journal, New York Times. Quote, every data point Google collects and connects you to increases how valuable you are to an advertiser, Microsoft says in the ad. In response, Google published a blog post in which it refuted what it called myths about its new privacy policy, saying, quote, our privacy controls have not changed, period, end quote. The company does not dispute that it serves up ads based on words and private emails written by users of Gmail, but says that scanning is automated, and it's similar to how many email providers filter out spam. Yes, it is, but the email providers aren't selling your personal information to advertisers. It has operated that way since Gmail's introduction in 2004. That's absolutely true, too. Both companies offer several controls to prevent advertisers from tracking users' online activity. Editor-in-chief of the website Search Engine Land said Google's privacy policy simplification has turned into a public relations, quote, nightmare, end quote, but only because it again focused attention on the kind of data Google has collected for years. He said Microsoft is in no position to point fingers since it also collects a lot of user data from its search engine, Bing, and will adjust search results based on information it finds in users' Facebook accounts if they are logged in. Interesting, eh? Yes, that's how it all ties together. Quote, I think they're largely about the same, Sullivan said. It would not be hard to go through and pick any major internet company, talk about the kind of data they collect, and start getting people paranoid. Absolutely true. Well, moving on here to the Apple Store, there's a little bit of a controversy over this exhibit here, this fine art exhibit that this guy is putting together. His name's Irby Pace. And he's saying, quote, on a daily basis, people are leaving their portraits behind on iPhones, iPads, and iPods in the Apple stores. And you've probably noticed that if you've ever poked around on these. People go and they click on photo and they take group pictures and they make all kinds of weird faces in them. Well, Irby has gone and collected over 1,000 of them, and they're from stores across Texas and New York City. He says, quote, customers disregard discretion and abandon these photos. So he's taken all of these things, and he has put together a art show. Yes, indeed, he has blown them up. He's planning on getting them into a gallery, and it is called Unintended Consequences. And obviously, he's using anonymous portraits. It's not exactly seditious, it says here. He says, Unintended Consequences explores changes in behavior for those people who would not have considered how these images may be used. Now, the only real question here seems to be whether or not they're actually Apple's property or his property. But you take your picture, you leave it behind, guess what? It's just open. It's there for the taking. SpaceX, these are the guys that are a private organization who are putting together space flights. And more particularly, SpaceX has some special